You got to.
You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Good morning. Welcome everybody to VPR Radio. It's your girl Kiana the Goddess and the one and only DJFMI, my partner.
You know what I mean? If I had a horn VPR, I would definitely hit it and keep it going. My fault for holding you guys up. I know you guys have a busy Thursday, but these technical difficulties were here
They be
this
real.
morning, VPR, for everybody that's tuning in. But like I said, I wouldn't miss an episode for you.
Oh man, we love and appreciate you, partner. So what's on your mind today? Let's set it off.
Man. VPR, we got to run around. We got the BIA event later tonight.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm DJing. We have the VPR showcase that's been thrown in next week, Wednesday, that's been,
Right.
doing well. Shout
Love
out to all the artists sending their music submissions, but please have your track IDs lined up. I cannot stress it enough when I put it in Serato and then it says a completely different name. And this
mm,
goes for all unsigned artists. When you send your music over to anyone, just have it lined up correctly. You know what I mean? Have it ID'd, have your BPM set so we take it seriously when we get it, so we don't have to cipher through it and give us an extra job.
Let me tell you, I've seen the frustration live with FMI as he's putting things into Serato. So, because when we're live, if you guys haven't seen us live, FMI is on the wicked. And we only
Mm-hmm.
play independent artists and we get some of the dopest music ever. And a lot of people are vibing to it and they're like, I've never heard this before. So it's lit because you're not going to hear it on any other radio station, but he's trying to line it up so that you guys can get paid for your streams, right? And
Yes.
it's not even working out because you don't have your business right. So please, guys, please. Por
Speaking
favor.
about, you know what I mean? Speaking about business, right? Kanye's a little bit tight right now, Kiana. You know why?
Why? What happened now?
Because his music ain't getting counted to Billboard, and he dropped his
Oh,
Donda
yeah.
2,
I
and
saw
he
that.
got this theme player. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are saying, how dare he have the audacity to drop a $200 player for his project? But I'm just like, why not?
Mhm.
Why not?
I
You
mean,
know?
Nipsey was selling his mixtapes for what, $100 a pop, right? Like,
Yeah.
the value, it is what it is. But then at the same note, you can't get mad when things don't line up to the big machines that you decided to disconnect from.
And I'm not gonna give him the
You have a
Kanye just
Billboard award? Do you? Do you, Kanye?
you see what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I'm not gonna just write it off as Kanye just being Kanye. Like there's a time and place for that, but I think it's smart what he did with the Steam player. You know, a lot of people are mad at it. Yeah, it costs $200. If you want to listen to Kanye, play it. Me, on the other hand, I've
I'm
heard
telling
my fair share of Kanye. I'm
you,
not
that's your
against it.
share of Kanye. Yes.
You know what I mean? Like Donda and then Donda 2.2 and then
Yeah.
Donda 2. And
Yeah.
then he performing it in Miami and charging people. He's monetizing his platform. And I don't knock him for it at
Can't
every
be mad
corner.
at it. I mean, he was married to a Kardashian, so he's gonna monetize.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
As he should, but all the media that's coming out upon him is just I get it. Some things that he does make sense, VPR, from an artist standpoint,
From
just
a
for
business.
owning his
Mhm.
own masters and moving like that. So that's
Mhm.
also always great.
Yeah, it only makes sense. You gotta have your ownership, and I mean, I think he's showcasing that if nothing else. But I think that for me personally, at this point in the game, you know, Kanye is doing a lot, right? And I think mentally he's just in a different kind of space, and the music is just not the same for me. You feel me? As what it once was.
Well, okay. Before we have our artists jump in VPR, you know what I mean? I was gonna ask you, what albums have you been listening to, Kiana? Because you know what I'm saying? We're here in another month. I'm just like, you know what I mean? What music have you been listening to that has been moving you?
I've actually been listening to a lot of classical music lately, to be completely honest with you, um,
Okay.
which has really just been keeping my spirit calm. You know what I mean? I even try to get away from like when I'm feeling away and I'm like, let me throw on some Biggie. I'm like, well, let me not. Let me throw on some violins, you know, and take my mood elsewhere. And I think I'm in a process because I also write music and whatnot, right? And I sing.
Mhm.
I'm reconnecting to music on a more like personal level. So listening to like the instrumentals, it kind of does something to my heart. So that's kind of been where my zone's been.
I've
But
been
eh, what about you, partner? Before we pull down,
um, before we bring up our guests, I've been sitting there. I've been spending my mornings VPR listening to more alternative because
mm,
sometimes I don't want to hear shoot 'em up in the morning. You know
that's
what I
what I'm
mean?
saying.
Sometimes I need to hear some Bob Marley in the morning. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Some Unity and stuff like that. Yeah, I look strange driving around smoking. You know what I'm saying? But We safe. Listen to my Bob Marley. I'm cleansing my soul. I'm cleansing my
That's
spirit,
what I'm
just like I
saying.
want you guys to do here.
Aren't we always in sync though, partner? You know what I mean? Like you're in a left kind of space and you just need to be in a vibe. And that's where I'm at.
VPR life throws enough at you. Sometimes
Yep.
you got to take time for yourself, and more than sometimes, a lot of the time.
Control that environment so that it is what you want. But let's definitely bring Mr. Pope up.
Hey,
What's up?
hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
We're doing
Going on, Dr.
fantastic.
Pope?
How about you?
Good, man. And I'm really enjoying the diversity of music you all discussed in that conversation, man.
Mm-hmm.
I hear that, man.
Well, we know that you are very musical, sir. So we would love to just start from the beginning because we know where you are now. We'd love to know where you're going for 2022 further. But can you tell us about your musical upbringing and how this all kind of came to light?
Yeah, man. I think it started from God just saying, this is what you're supposed to do. Because let my family tell it, I've been playing drums, being melodic with my noises and all that stuff since birth. I'm a product of the black. I'm a product. Thank you, man. But like a lot of musicians and people that I admire, I'm a product of the Black church. My father, grandfather, mother, most of the men in my family were ministers. And so unlike a lot of my peers, because I had to make the choice early, given I'm the oldest of three, what activity I was going to have. So my parents weren't going to be running around like, you going to be hooping? Because, you know, Chicago's my man Win, you know what I'm saying? We got point guards, shooting guards is what we produce. I wanted to like be a point guard. My dad was like, you got to choose one. So I chose the music. But I was always in a lot of activities, and being a pastor's son, though, I was at the church literally every night of the week. And so in being it was in Chicago, it's like I could go outside, but then it's like it's street shit going on out there, man. You know, so that ain't the safest thing. So I got an organ, drums, a bass, and guitars just sitting here. Let's fool around and see what happens. And so years of just playing and supporting in church, and I started studying classically at the Merritt School of Music downtown Chicago, percussion specifically. And that's where just the creativity grew, because I grew up hearing, you know, gospel music at church. And then my father's father was a barber. So his barber shop was like the blues and like old school stuff. So jazz wasn't something that was introduced to me until I was about 16. And from there, I went to Fisk University and became a member of the Fisk Jubilee Singers, which is a vocal ensemble that started about 1870 in order to save the school. Traveled to sing Queen Victoria. She gave them $100,000. And that's the story, how that HBCU actually had money to stay open during the Reconstruction era. Wow. But all throughout that time, I just, you know, I never say no to anything. So I was in school in Nashville. You know, I was doing a lot of gospel gigs because Bobby Jones Gospel was down there. BET was filming stuff at the TBN network. But then I was doing rockabilly gigs, and country gigs, and, you know, just soaking it all up, man. You know,
you're getting around, getting his feet wet.
Yeah.
Understatement.
Yeah. Because I mean, you know, the other side of it too, you know, if either you are musicians, you'll know that as a drummer, you're at the bottom of the totem pole based on the musical family chart. You know, drums get played. And so you're typically the last called and the least paid in the band, because your band leaders are the melodic instruments, your keyboard players, your guitarists. So those are going to be your music directors, and they're going to have to learn a lot more of the intricacies, be more rehearsal, so that dollar doubles up. So I just knew by not saying no, I wouldn't lack in just bringing in and generating money, like some of my homies were who just had that church gig on Sunday. You know what I'm saying? Right.
He said, I'll do it all and I'll play every instrument.
Okay, I'm going to expand and conquer. I understand him.
I love it.
Yeah, man. So, you know, after school, I ended up moving to DC and, you know, jumped into the scene and, you know, just kind of kept the same thing going. Just played jazz, blues, a lot of rock and roll, hip hop, soul, and was just blessed through, honestly, Howard University to meet people who were then really trying to target stages. And so I ended up playing for like a lot of people's senior recitals, graduation recitals, all the while I'm working on Capitol Hill for my member of Congress. So it's like I'm not necessarily a part of the music community, but I'm just trying to like hit these right points. And it was honestly through Howard where, I mean, some of those cats are like, this cat Michael Robinson at the time, he was singing background for Bilal, playing keys with Bilal. I became his drummer. Rochelle Rice, a notable vocalist from the UK to North Carolina, DC, and a couple other artists that I was able to meet to just kind of show me, what it's like to do, larger gigs, and especially on the East Coast where like we're a lot more aggressive than how the Midwest is. Like Chicago is a little different. It's like Chicago's more like it could be church, but it still be like some gang stuff involved, low key. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, like
yeah, we pray to God, but we
but we bang over here. Yeah, but I mean, like on the East Coast though, the audiences are harder. It's just like, yo, if it ain't right, it's a right.
Showtime, you at the Apollo. I was just gonna say,
Apollo. I don't care what room you in. If it's a room with black people, you better be on point.
Yeah, you gotta go hard.
Yeah, man. So I would say the most notable experiences though that kind of showed me what path to take, I would say started when I played for Ayanna Gregory for a number of years. That's Dick Gregory's daughter. Amazing vocalist. If you haven't heard of her, please go check out her music. But she had this perfect synergy between, kind of what mainstream wanted to hear. Her voice, I would say, is kind of akin to like a Lauryn Hill. But I mean, she's her father's Dick Gregory. So in her set, while she may do a song about sex and love, she would sing like freedom songs from stuff she used to do during marches growing up. And to see that synergy, I never thought that like I had room as a black performer specifically, especially as a man, because a lot of times if I want to sing soul, I'm gonna be sexualized. I gotta have a six pack. The songs have to be a specific style. And I didn't think that I'd be able to really like incorporate all of me on stage and then be accepted.
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Please. Yeah, man. Yeah.
Being put into a box, right? How were you able to break free from that and cross it over to something that actually attracts people? Because what you do find, right, is that they do box particular artists into, okay, you're neo soul, and then this is who your audience is, right? But your audience, because you're so classically trained, like I said, you can tell from the authenticity behind the music.
VPR, please check out the video I posted on my page. When I seen that we had Dante Pope, just I was excited just because I seen with that trailer that I'm gonna say, oh no, he's a musician.
Right.
I'm sitting there telling my friends, please tune into the episode today because I feel like his music, he can drop some gems here for the artists that are listening right now. So
most definitely. Yeah, and make sure you guys go follow him. It's in the header as well. It's just Dante Pope. Very, very easy to find. But let's talk about that because so many artists do get boxed in. How were you able to find that fine balance to finesse not only, crossing over and diversifying, but being able to find your niche crowd and connecting to build that, right? Because you have to have the people that are actually listening to it. You have to be able to get the exposure.
Yeah. I would say big up to Bilal, Robert Glasper, John Legend, Alicia Keys, man, this cat Dante Hall. The blessing is I'm young enough to come after guys that made being an instrumentalist. Like, you understand what I'm saying? Where it's like, oh yeah, just do your stuff. But I love the way you play piano and just do a couple riffs. And so I would say I did find comfort in that I can relate. Now the stories I'm telling may be different because I may talk about, my grandfather's dementia in the song, like the tune I released called The Promise. But for me, it was kind of leaning more into my interest into still being able to be somewhat spiritual in my performance without, just going full throttle into like Jesus.
Without becoming boxed in as a Christian performer.
As a
yeah, we don't want to cross completely over.
Exactly. Yeah, because it's like, I think it's I don't think it's fair that, and I'll be honest, I see this a lot more with artists who are not of color, the ability to present their whole selves without judgment. There's an ability for them to do that. Where with us, we want to capitalize on like, man, it's like, okay, I was gang banging and in the streets 10 years ago. So that first project I did was from my stories 10 years ago.
And you got to keep that going for the next 3 projects.
Because it's all about, because it's all about capital. It's all about capital.
It's not about the literal growth that you experience as a human, right?
Yeah.
So then putting out a different message to, you know, connect to your audience and say, this isn't where I'm at right now. This isn't where I need to be. This is the next level.
Yeah. So for me, I just started to, you know, I started to see the possibility, like it hit me like as an independent, because I didn't start my independent career till 2019. Like before that, I was touring with Raheem Devon and this Grammy award-winning country guitarist and storyteller named Dom Flemings, who's the founder of a group called the Carolina Chocolate Drops. And I was with him from like 2014 to about 2018. And so I saw that, okay, going on the road, I saw on a Grammy level, like, man, that's what a real budget requires. And then with some of the good indie artists that I was playing with, it's like, man, that's still a lot of money. What can I do trying to build my thing up? And honestly, what gave me that space, sister, is just doing house shows. I was literally just talking to my wife about that. Like, I haven't performed in 2 years, but I want to start back there this year. Like, and then jump into some club dates. But doing those house shows gave me the space, number one, to curate the tone of what I want you to feel from when you walk in the door. And then it also gives me the freedom to not feel like I'm controlling everything, but the freedom to be able to actually host you, because, you know, you're hosting regardless if you're paying me to go see me at an arena or paying me to be able to just come into like a house party. But I really thrive in intimate settings because I want to actually engage you. And so what helped me in Washington, D.C. was doing, I had this project called After 5 Music, which was my debut EP. And it was kind of set in the blues era. And so I decided to do these parties, kind of expounding on the history of what was juke joints, which is where the blues was kind of really birthed to become like broader in people listening to it. But did some of my music, because my first project was very much like a nod to Stax and Motown. It sounded nothing like what I'm doing right now. And so in that space, I was able to get email lists. I was able, you know, because people had to purchase tickets. I was also able to interface with folks in a space where I'm comfortable. And it kind of takes away some of the weight of the club. Like, I'm good for it now. But at that point, it's like I speak to a guy and smile like, oh, you know, that's such and such. It's like, I didn't. But hey, he in my house. Versus if I'm at
your marketing right there, you know what I mean? He ended up at my show right
exactly.
there.
Yeah.
And you pulled that ability to network and connect with, you know, people one-on-one. I think that's beautiful because sometimes that's lost in the world of social media. You know, connecting in person is still a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Like FMI and I connected in person way before we connected on social media. And it makes all the difference. So like, whenever he could make that call or I made that call, it was like, oh, FMI. You know what I mean? That's DJFMI. Like, that's my boy.
Right. Yeah.
So, Dante, I did want to ask you about your single Regrets. Explain that writing process, because the beginning of that video, it struck me and that made me a fan of your music. So I wanted to know, what was that song about? Because I'm going to listen to it right after this interview. I'm going to listen to it. So I want to explain to our viewers.
Okay, so you mean Regret or the song that started off the video?
I like the song that started, and then the full video I love, but the song that started it, it hits.
So this is kind of goes back to your comment, Qiana, like not being boxed in. I did have to give, you know, some room to the fact that I do want to be heard on a broader level. So I'm a big fan of music from like 1959 to like 1975, you know, the Whispers, the Delphonics, like anything where I can be like, oh, baby girl, like just that old school, you know, but it's a niche audience. So when I did my first project, you know, I was doing that style of music. So I noticed just the age of the attendees of my shows was like 29 to 45. Which is a great group, but it's like I was also teaching like pre-K through 8. And when I would play my stuff to middle school, it's just like, man, you know who on bass? And they like, yo, but I'm finna go to sleep. This is my granny music. I was just like, wow, how can I piece these together, but also still be my true self? So that is a whole song called Let the Rain Fall Down on Me, Oh Girl. I kind of made like a spoof album with this group. I'm singing everything, I'm playing everything. The group is called High Yellow, right? But not High Yellow.
High Yellow.
Because
we're familiar.
Right.
Exactly. Because see, and this is God be knowing. I did it for this interview question right here. It has two meanings. High Yellow because the lead vocalist sings up here. So he's the High Yellow. And that's how it's spelled. Hiyella.
I love it.
And so it's actually on all streaming platforms. You just look up Dante Pope and High Yellow, you will hear Let the Rain Fall Down on Me, Oh Girl. Like I was listening.
Gonna go get it right now.
Yeah. So at that time, I was just
playlist. We're gonna make sure we put that on there. Make sure y'all check that out. Everybody that's subscribed to the VPR radio playlist on Spotify.
Yeah. And so my videographer, photographer, Foster, or he's known as FK White, he really loves like the noir vibe. And as much as I'm kind of doing a little more hip hop stuff, you're gonna see I'm still gonna be quoting live music, but it's a lot of people doing jazz now. It's like everybody's doing jazz with hip hop. So I'm like, cool, I'm gonna go back further and like just bring up some more history,
I see what y'all doing, but we need it.
We need it right now because I feel like the element of the history and where especially music came from and us as a people being able to express it on a mainstream level has gotten lost in the sauce along the way. So I love you are a musical historian, right? And you're telling the story back to the people. I think that's so important.
You're preserving culture, my brother. And
Thank you, man. Thank you. And I just feel it's necessary because I will say that, not to be boxed in, but I do still refer to guys who are the marketing models and performing models for what it means to be like a star as an R&B artist. So like your Al Greens, your Marvin Gaye's, your Teddy Pendergrass, like all these, Teddy Riley even, like, but these guys, when you look at their interviews, they're referring to like other records and liner notes and what was culturally happening in that time. And I think we need to keep that going so that people just know. So I wanted the video to be just a real low key thing. And so we just figured we would do that kind of that profile shot. And the song Regret was a
video fire.
The song, it kind of opened me up in 2020. I wrote that song in 2020. It was right after, COVID hit this month. And I lost all my gigs. Like I was supposed to be touring heavy.
You and me both. I felt it, my brother.
We all did. Clients for me. You know what I mean? It was like, oh well. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was like alcohol, smoking, and like other stuff that could have really took me out. So thank God that I like smartened up and like got my life together, man. But the song was actually supposed to be for a movie. A buddy of mine in LA hit me up. It was going to be like my first music supervising situation. And they were like, yo, it's Thursday. We need a song by Sunday in this style. But if you could like kind of flip any Ray Charles song as if this artist we want you to quote, and I'll say it's supposed to be like a T-Pain version of a Ray Charles song, right?
Okay.
With the auto-tune or without the auto-tune, because T-Pain can sing with and
that's the thing. I used a little bit of it, but I guess I forgot the part in film. They actually really want you to sound like them, and I kind of put too much of me in there. So they were like, "Yo, this is killing," but just that's not his sound. But like, we good. Thank you for showing us that like you can turn around something on time. And
yeah.
So, but the words were written. Initially, it was gonna be the chorus was "Unchain my heart, girl, let me be," versus "Baby, let my love go, darling, just let me." I took the same tone of that song of "Unchain My Heart." It's in the same key, literally, and just wrote another verse. But I wrote another hook, but that verse was a part of what I submitted to them. But the song was just about really me talking to myself, "Baby, let my love go, darling, just let me be. You got me sitting on the fence, but your love I still need." I'm talking to music because it's like,
I'm sitting here thinking it's a love song.
man.
Okay. I'm like, sheesh.
Right.
Yeah. I remember when I met you. Let me go and change my heart. I don't want you no more. You know, every time I call you on the phone, another, you know, it's just like, it's literally, you know, I know artists feel this where it's like, man, I don't think people know how many times we quit doing this. You know, if you're, yeah, bro, what you gonna say?
Nah, it's a thing that we do have to acknowledge as artists. You have to
Yeah.
acknowledge that as business owners,
Yep.
entrepreneurs. Every morning isn't the same. You know what I mean? Some mornings are easier than others.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was just really a song of me, like, you know, kind of just loathing the fact that, you know, I have this conversation with God about more than music, any of my talents or things that I feel like I'm good at. It's like, why would you have given me this to have to, like, you know, have this process with it? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, why can't this, if it's flawless to me, man, why can't the result be that? You know, and I guess what it came to is the resolve of that is it's for your growth. Because even me writing regret, it was like me having that regret, me going through this constant thing with music, landed me this interview with you guys. It's connected me with younger people that I also teach, to just have an avenue for us to have a conversation, you know, where, you know, the numbers are crazy right now about teenagers just taking their own lives, especially Black
Yeah.
youth.
Oh my
And
God, no.
yeah, and so I'm working with, like, you know, teenagers who are artists that were once my students, who are now really producing their own stuff, and I'm listening to their music, and they're really talking about suicide and all this. But if I was still doing like some blues, not to say they wouldn't care, but the fact that I have music that's kind of in their lane, they're open to just, hey, this is what this is about. I'm quoting this extension tune or yada yada, and I get it because I'm also listening. But that's the story of
About real
yeah,
things, right? You have to talk
exactly.
about the real things that are happening. I mean, that's absolutely beautiful. And I completely agree with you. The growth portion, without having those moments of self-doubt, without having the moments that shake us up and say, okay, well, what are you going to do now? Right?
Hmm.
How much do we know about how we can really persevere? I think when everything is just handed to you as a result effortlessly, the appreciation doesn't go behind it. And like
Yep.
you said, that growth doesn't come from it. When this happens, what are you going to do? Okay, you fell. Now what? How are you going to get up? How are you going to
Hmm.
restructure? And especially, during COVID, so many creators, no matter what you were creating, you had to pivot, right? And if you weren't a creator, you just had a regular job, you probably had to pivot toward figuring out something to create that you could actually, put into the market and create some revenue for yourself. So
Yeah.
I love that. That is such a powerful story of truth and motivation, quite frankly.
Thank you, man. Yeah, so that's where that song came from. And then I just released another single January 1st of this year called All the Game. And it's really just a song kind of just reflecting on what the nightlife is like. It's like a kind of like
And
a
I
night a
checked that
nightly
song
talk.
too, VPR. This man is on to something because I
Thank you,
listened
man.
to it exactly before the interview. And I watched it 3 times last night because I want to get a feel for people's music. I
Thank you,
listened to it
man.
in different settings because I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? If I'm going to be having all this talent on VPR, I want to actually feel what these artists are putting out. So,
Thank you,
good one.
man. And thank
Mhm.
you to New York, man. New York gave that energy. I shot the music video 100% in Brooklyn. Um,
Brooklyn.
yeah,
Hometown.
100% in Brooklyn. So it really popped off. Big ups to my friend Aaron Johnson and Celador Media and Wes Felton. They directed it for me. Yazara, who was my co-star. Yazara is an amazing vocalist who's been with Erykah Badu, Lenny Kravitz for years, Madonna up to like right when the pandemic happened. And made the call, let her hear the music, and she was like, "Oh, I'm down to come be in your joint, baby. It's okay." And I'm like, "Whoa, that's crazy."
We love it.
Yeah. So it's really been a great journey, and moving forward, you see, I have AKA. I don't know if people can see it, but it would say somebody's daddy,
Oh.
um, which is the name of my debut album that'll be coming out in 2023. All these singles are really a means for me to kind of search out what the sound will be. But after becoming a new father, I started thinking about how I want to present myself through my craft. Being a preacher's kid, while I'm a preacher's adult child now, it is
You
always
got a lot of responsibilities on that musical hat that you got there, my brother.
yeah,
You know what
but
I mean?
it was a lot of like self editing I was doing that's not happening on this next album. You know, I've been thinking about, you know, if DJFMI, you know, we form a relationship and you're in my life and you get a chance to meet my family or Kiana, and you know, we have the opportunity to kick it for real before my son gets older. I don't want him to ask y'all like, yo, what was he like a couple years ago? And y'all be like, I mean, your dad was an upstanding oatmeal and water guy, man. You know, like I want to be like, yo, your dad likes to drink, he likes to dance, he's, you know. So with this new project, I really want to just put all myself out there, talking about addictions, sex, you know, love, but just not in like a lollipop way, like really dealing with it. And that came from being somebody's daddy, you know, doing that self-searching. So around it will be some conversation and merchandise to support fathers relative to the home, and kind of just bring families together. I feel like in COVID, some families were brought together through COVID. Unfortunately, sometimes by death or just different circumstances. But I know of a lot of families who were torn apart through those same things. So I kind of want to put something out there that's like, cool, I got your ear, but like, let's start talking to each other, you know?
Yeah, we need to have those real conversations, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that that's lacking in our community. And I was actually just having a brief conversation about that this morning with like the leaders now on social media. I'm not even going to mention names because I'm not going to give the energy, but you guys know who I'm talking about. Like the male that comes on and demeans Black women and says what a high value man is and what a high value woman is not, right? Because you never really hear about high value women. But here's what's happening. There's becoming like this disparity between, we already have it just being people of color, right? Now it's the male versus the female. Okay. And it's, this is what you should be doing. And everybody is this, and men are this, and all women are this. And you see a lot of it. And it is further widening the gap of our unity and our healing, right? And we need to have these conversations, and they're not currently being had in music. Because if you think about what's played mainstream, it's only further tearing it apart, right? Because men are this and women are this. And this is due to survive the madness, versus these are traumas, right? We're reacting from traumas, and we need to learn how to heal from trauma, because these things are real. Now let's talk about how we can actually get past them and grow from them.
And you know, just to keep it within the hip hop community as far as music and artists, right? It's funny with every other act or every other genre, as the artists age, people listen more to their music, and they still even look for their new albums because, you know, they want to hear the new content. And hip hop, like we said, if you ain't talking about how you used to flip dimes in the 90s, even though we in 2021, they still want to hear you flip dimes, and they'll say you're washed up. Even though your story is still continuing as a hip hop artist, you're changing your content to, you know, adjust to the way you're living and what you're intaking. But only in our genre of music, they're like, oh, nah, it's not about the first thing that you rapped about when you was 19. Get him out the door. You washed up.
Exactly.
In the rock community, you know what I mean? We'll have Led Zeppelin, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I think going further on that, what's even worse, right? Because when you talk about people they talk about that are washed up already, they're still thriving in their careers. They're still making their money. So it's just like regular talk amongst the people. But what about the artists that are really out here? Like they have a whole full-time job, they have a family, music is still in their heart. People tell me, oh, bro, you washed up. Get out of that. This nigga still trying to be a rapper, blah, blah. Like, why not?
whoa.
Why can't they chase their dreams? Because sometimes, I mean, look at Anthony Hamilton. You know what I mean? Look at people that go into their careers later in life because they kept persevering and they never gave up. Why are our people so quick to tell others to give up, especially the ones that they love? I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think it's it just, as much as I have to consider marketing now and looking at trends, I think people have been programmed with entertainment and anything that's is for consumers. You're gonna make that
You
it
taking
thing,
us to church, Dante. You taking
you
us
know.
to church.
Anything that's made for consumers, you have to have something that is going to guarantee profit. And I just feel like, especially with hip hop, you know, I've traveled Asia, Africa, South America, all around the US. And I think a bigger thing is that because of this history, that I think hip hop is starting to do a better job with incorporating the history within the genre. You know, when we're so over replicated from K-pop to, I mean, it'd be funny. I'd be watching Coco Melon with my son. I'm like, yo, that's the Stakes is High joint that they just put the ABCs over, and people are constantly using hip hop as a means to market something from Target. You know, I hear it every day.
Commercial.
Yeah, just everything.
Super Bowl.
Everything.
And let's not forget about the fashion, right?
And the fashion. So I think it's a matter of like, we need to get beyond the pride of like, oh yeah, that's our stuff. To, I wouldn't say, maybe it in some way get to the offensive part of like, that's our stuff.
Right.
You know, and
ownership
then,
of our stuff.
Ownership of it.
Yeah.
And then figure out a way to like, I don't even think it has to be combative, because you know, once I started touring with that folk artist too, his thing is like, you know, I got a whole book over here on like slave songs and all this stuff. So it kind of goes back to, you know, we are so intertwined with American born genres of music, and music from around the globe. This is on an academic level. We could have this conversation, that I had to come to the point where it's just like, y'all just all my babies. No arrogance,
Okay.
but I'm done being mad about it. Yes,
Right.
you're going to use what you're going to use, but the most I can do is actually know the source. So you play that song and I could be like, oh man, that's like this old joint that Robert Johnson did in the cornfields when he was on tour with, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's the story that I need to own.
What y'all know about the cornfields?
Exactly.
Kiana, with him taking it that way, he's breaking down that thing that we have, the old head versus new head. Old head rappers are like 25.
Right.
You look at Lil Uzi Vert is like 28, 29, and he's an old head rapper.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like 2 Chainz is 38, 37. But what I'm saying is, you're at least taking time for the conversation to acknowledge the source of the music, and you're not saying, oh, I don't like this because it's new and it samples this. You're saying, nah, this is where it came from. So it creates a dialogue between whoever you're telling that to, and I like that. You know what I mean? That's a safe approach than turning someone off.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, there are artists who are, I mean, like, man, like Toby Ngoe. I want to mess up my brother's name from Houston, Texas. You know, he's really incorporating a lot of his knowledge of the South, his knowledge of him being an African man, and his knowledge of the culture with hip hop. And he has some great stuff. Shout out to Maimouna Youssef, who was on one of his projects. She's from the DMV and also in the Grammys with me, man. Good people there. But I think there are, Sa Rock is another one, you know, crazy lyricist. So I think it's just
send your people our way. We love to have them on our platform.
Yeah. But I think it's a matter of we just got to be consistent. For those who choose to want to educate, just keep doing it. Because we are in an age where information runs, so it's just quick. Everything is very fast. But these young people are into stuff. I mean, look at how record sales are going up. Literal records, though. I mean, this younger generation of reading liner notes is hip to like quote stuff from back in the day. Yes. So I think we're having a trend of things coming back, and we just need people like you guys given the platform to, number one, speak what you know is true, but then to give people like myself an opportunity to just throw those darts, man. But I guess back to what we were talking about with like the like how you have to be a specific way.
Right. Boxed into this. You're an R&B artist. That's it.
Exactly. You know? So I think back to what I was saying, I think that it's like that with hip hop though, because it's such a global phenomenon that they don't want to risk the loss of that money. It's all about the dollars, man. You know, I think it's so deep now, it goes beyond the labels.
It's like, what is a stream worth to you? You know what I mean? Clout brings you streams. Streams means money in the artist that's recording off their cell phone. Remember the story we spoke about with we interviewed Keter, I think, and he was telling us an artist that he flew out
Yes.
and he went to go sign him. And the artist said, nah, I'd rather record music off my phone and have this distorted sound because that's what my SoundCloud artists like. And I'm getting streams from that.
Yeah.
And he was blown away. He brought him to the studio. The artist did not know what anything was, but he was making hits off his phone.
Yeah.
And his fan base, he was monetizing his fan base.
Yeah, it goes way beyond the labels. And that's why, you know, educating yourself behind the scenes about what you need to do in business, not just as, you know, the creator, is so imperative. I would love for us to get into some deeper conversations. So we got to have you back because there's a lot to discuss. I know FMI's got more questions. I definitely do. But before we go, please tell us about what you have coming up next and tell everyone where they can find you. And I'm going to go download everything you have on Apple Music.
Oh, man. Thank you so much.
Everything. Okay.
Thank you. Well, you could find me and kind of my whole world at www.dantepope.com, where I have my music posted, shows that are forthcoming, and just a little more about myself, education programs, and the community work that I do around the music. Coming out soon is my new song called Whisper. It was to drop this month for Women's History Month, but it's going to be in April. But it's a song I'm kind of quoting Curtis Mayfield, Bilal, like little Raheem Devon vibe up in there. But it's a song specifically for the women and me returning completely back to just an R&B soul vibe, featuring my mentor, Kokai, amazing lyricist. And then after that, this summer, I'm going to be doing a couple of house shows coming to New York, dates coming soon. The concert is called The Conversation, and honestly centered around what we've been discussing here, but also giving room for myself to explore songs that will be on my debut album, Somebody's Daddy. So it's every song will have a conversation in between it with the audience. It's going to be a great time and just a way for me just to return back to the stage before doing all the club stuff. But thank you all so much for having me here, and I look forward to meeting y'all in person.
Oh, I love it. We'll definitely see you when you get to New York.
I'll pull up on them tour dates loud and clear with people like this. You're about to get a show.
Yeah, I will be in Brooklyn for sure. I got to reach back out to Rockwood, but definitely will be Brooklyn. I have 2 locations out there, so I'm looking forward to it.
Perfect.
So I'm here for it, man. Thank you for coming to VPR.
Thank you for having me.
It was an amazing interview. And can you leave us with some gems for artists that are in
I was going to ask
the hip hop industry, the music industry? Leave them with some positive gems. That's something that you picked up over the way.
Yeah. I would say number one, as you already know, be confident and positive and careful with yourself and your opinion of yourself. I think a lot of times I'm guilty of it. We've figured out ways to medicate that confidence and that ability to carry your craft. Find time to be able to do that stuff soberly. That's number one, just so you could live longer, but also maintain the strength of your mind. I would say the second, collaborate with people intentionally that make you uncomfortable. I'm not saying every project, but that's going to grow you as a creative, as a thinker, and as a human. So I think that's amazing. And the third is don't stop. I don't care if you pick up a job at the post office, a server, you have that 15th baby you didn't expect. Find time. As my man DJFMI was saying, you can record on your phone and people will still buy it. So create however you could create, man.
Oh, I love it. I mean, those are some positive quotes. You guys got to be listening. If you're not watching now, you can definitely run it back. I know I'm still blocked on Facebook. The man can't hold.
I'll share it on mine. It's live on mine, guys, and I'll definitely be sharing it. I love this interview, and I'm gonna go listen to music for the rest of the day. It's gonna be therapeutic for me, and it's such a vibe. Thank you, Dante.
You're a whole vibe, Dante. We can't wait to have you back, and go and have a wonderful day. And congratulations on the baby, and
congratulations also
for prosperity and love.
Thank you, guys. Much love to you, man.
You too.
Man.
Peace.
That was great.
Amazing. That was great, partner. I love our guests. We have the best guests ever. Like nobody could tell me anything. I don't care what y'all are talking about. I'm not even gonna start going in my bag crazy. Touching. our guest partner. It's just not happening. The quality of the conversations that we have is just, I always feel amazing when I leave VPR.
You know, I can't wait for his project. Someone's Dad is gonna drop. I think that's a beautiful name for a project, and it
Me
just
too.
in music. Yeah, we make certain sounds for the club, but it's nice to see that someone is out there creating something that means that's of value spiritually. So go and check out Dante VPR. It's always a pleasure being here, and
Always.
happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday, you guys. Go out with love and light, and keep this great feeling that you have in your gut, and never stop chasing your dreams, right? We're not going to stop chasing our dreams around here. Never, ever, 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 ever give up. We love you. We'll see you next week for the next episode of VPR Radio. Ciao, you guys.